mom, Consuelo Paras, to my dad, Ernesto Paras Sr., and to my late grandmother, Maximina Patsawaran.
On this final episode of our two-part Monuments on Main Street Cemetery Tour series, we will travel back in some historical era of Greenville, Mississippi, as described by Norma Council O'Bannon, the towering force in Delta education. O'Bannon School was also named after her. Juanita Turney, the beloved proponent of racial healing and equality. She was also crowned as the Delta Hot Tamales Queen in 2013. And Mike Breyers, the infamous scoundrel and murderer who's so known about his honesty.
You made it! He's going on a trip around the country, all 50 states.
Private Robert T. Bobby Henry, enlisted for service in World War II, served in County B, 16th Inferior Regional, 1st Army Division, U.S. Army. Hello guys, I'm here in St. James Episcopal Church. Today is Sunday, October 18th, the last day of the Monuments in Main Street tour, a walking tour, and this commemorates all the significant and very important people here in Greenville in the past. Greenville in the past.
Children are growing up. They always fantasize about what they'll be when they grow up. When I was asked what I wanted to be, my answer was loud and clear. I want to be a teacher. Ultimately, I was the first woman superintendent of Washington County Schools in 1948, and a school would even be named in honor of my work in education. My name is Norma Council O'Bannon, and students, class is in session. My life began in Williamsville, Illinois on July 8, 1892. I was the oldest child and the only girl in the council family. My education began there in the public schools, and I later earned my bachelor's degree. My father set his sights on the Mississippi Delta in order to continue his farming interests. Farmland here in the Delta was, well, it was dirt cheap, and the prospect of owning more land at the cheaper price was quite an interest to my father. My father bought what was known as the Manhattan Plantation, and our life in the Delta began. I met my husband, Fred O'Bannon, after our move from Illinois. We were married in 1914, and the following year, our daughter Betty was born. Life for the O'Bannons was pretty normal, with Fred working, me being a homemaker, and Mom to Betty. Then, in 1921, my life would be set on a new course. I received a call from E.E. Bass, who was the superintendent of Greenville Public Schools. Mr. Bass had taken over the school system and had basically transformed the schools into an education system that was the envy of the state. He offered me a teaching position that had recently been vacated, and I jumped at the chance. See, I had a 4-year college degree, which was quite unusual in that day, and now I had a chance to put it to use. I taught junior high literature, civics, and geography. Then, in 1932, Mr. Bass passed away, and a quiet fell over the Greenville education system unlike anything we'd ever seen. Bass Junior High was named after him, and I would forever be grateful to him for jump-starting my teaching career. For the next 10 years, my life would continue to transition. I earned my master's degree. I became the first principal of the newly built Harry Stern School, and my first love, husband Fred, passed away. Fred had supported me diligently, and his loss was devastating. Thankfully, my second love, education, would continue to keep me busy. In 1948, the county school superintendent position was up for election, and by golly, I decided I was the right person for that job. I hit the campaign trail in the county and knocked on doors all over Washington County seeking votes. The voters decided I was the better candidate for the job too, and for the first time in history, the Washington County superintendent position was held by a woman. And do you know they never held an election for that position again after that? It became an appointed position. And who do you think they appointed to hold that job for the next 20 years? That's right, that would be me. I served as superintendent until 1968. During my tenure, there was a lot of work that needed to be done. After a thorough investigation of the county schools, I determined we were in desperate need of three things: consolidation, school lunches, and teacher accreditation. First, 96 schools were consolidated into 5 to make things more efficient. And secondly, none of those schools had cafeterias. Now, students may not always be hungry for education, but they are always hungry. So, school lunches were provided. And lastly, accreditation varied from teacher to teacher. So, a minimum education requirement was established as part of our teaching certification system. One last change that I personally felt was just as important as the other three was that black teachers now received the same pay as their white counterparts. And on top of all of that, I managed to earn my doctorate degree. That's quite a lot of change for the last 20 years. When the new school was built down at the end of Reed Road, several teachers and members of the community petitioned the school board to have it named after me. In 1950, when the school was opened as a consolidated elementary and secondary school, and it did indeed bear my name, O'Bannon School. I can't begin to tell you the pride it gave me to see that and what a great honor it was. I retired as superintendent in 1968 at 76 years old. August 16, 1982, I joined husband Fred here at the Council Family Plot. The next time you're down at the end of Reed Road and you see O'Bannon School, think about me. I appreciate the chance to tell you about my life and its history. I hope you enjoy the rest of your tour. And students, class is dismissed.
Oh, well, when did you get here? I usually know when all my visitors are scheduled, and your visit is a surprise. Well, surprise or not, you're here now. And where are my manners? Introductions. I am Juanita Turney, self-proclaimed mother of pomp and circumstance here in Greenville. I love visitors, and I hope you have time for a story. I am a longtime Greenville gal, born August 14, 1919. I was educated in the Greenville Public Schools, but graduated from Sacred Heart Catholic School. I love playing music, and I learned how to play early on. In fact, I played with Wind Swing Band on the weekends in the Gold Room at the Greenville Hotel, only the finest location in the Delta. So, after I finished graduating from college, I wanted to marry my sweetheart, but my mom had other ideals for me. So I began my career teaching, a career that spanned 30 and a half years until I retired. Finally, at 21, I was able to marry my sweetheart, Juanita Turney, and I started my career as a missus, which lasted a lot longer than in my teaching career, 58 years to be exact. Elgin and I had such a wonderful marriage. Did you know he was the first African-American postmaster here in Greenville? And one Christmas, we served as the Grand Marshals of the Greenville Christmas Parade. We didn't have any children, but 30 years of teaching brings kids year after year. Oh, what a thrill it was to watch those babies grow up, become adults, come back to Greenville to visit me and tell me all about the great things that they were doing with their life. You know, that brings you no greater pride or pleasure as a teacher. No children to speak of, but I did love my furry creatures. I prefer dogs as pets, but once there was a cat. This little feline just started hanging around my house, all coquette and aloof. I had no choice but to invite her in the house, and once she got in, she never left. Yeah, I really love that cat. So much so, one day I was chasing behind a car trying to shoo her away to keep her from getting run over. But guess who did get run over? Me. Yes, me. And to make matters worse, the person driving the car was my husband, Elgin. Yeah, I never admitted to jumping in front of his car and sing, and I never let him live down the fact that he had run me over either. The highlight of my career was being crowned Queen of the Hot Tamale Festival in 2013. Yeah, I took my duties very seriously, and I loved every moment of the event. I gotta tell you something though, and you gotta promise not to tell anyone. I don't particularly care for hot tamales. But being crowned queen, I really like that part.
Whoa.
Speaking of events, in my latter years, I attended every cultural event in Greenville. I was a regular at every Delta Center stage performance. I was at every E.E. Bass art opening. If there was something going on in the port city, I was present. Someone questioned me once saying, "Juanita, why are you coming to all these events?" To which I replied, if they didn't want me there, they need to stop inviting me. I got out and I got out to support Greenville every way I could. Once, I was invited to participate in a documentary called Separate But Equal about segregation. I was honored to be asked, and I offered my opinion. I told them I'm a talker, not a speaker. That's what we need more of today, talking. Talking implies communication, an expression of ideas and opinions. You speak to a person, you talk with them. I got a couple of more words to go along with that talk, like nice and respect. You know, if we're not respecting each other, we're not being nice, well, where does that leave us? Look around. Maybe we're seeing exactly where that leaves us. One more story and then I'll let you go. As my health began to fail, I was hospitalized. And as nurses do, they came into my room to get my medical history. To their surprise, when they asked me about medication, I told them, I'm not taking anything. They brought in 2 physicians to get the record straight, and I told them the same thing. I'm not taking anything. At the age of 95, I took no prescription medication. I was also able to read without glasses. Nothing for my heart, nothing for high blood pressure, for aches or illness, or anything else you could think of. All right, class, how many of you can say you did that? You know, a lady knows when it's time to leave. And on January 4th, 2017, it was mine. I went on to join my Elgin, who had preceded me in death 20 years earlier. I'm not buried here at the Greenville Cemetery. You'll find me up the street at Live Oak Cemetery. At my funeral, people said that I enjoyed life to the fullest and that I was loved and respected by many. I will leave you with those words of wisdom. Thank you for stopping by. I certainly enjoyed our visit.
Oh, sweet. All right, we're going to let the tram start moving along. He lived to be 91 years old, outliving his southern wife Laura by 20 years. He is the second recipient of the coveted Congressional Medal of Honor.
In the cemetery. I got a story I'm just dying to tell. Dying, get it? Just a little cemetery humor. Not all stories have a happy ending, you know. I'm sure you done heard some stories today about the fine, upstanding citizens of Greenville. Well, good for you, because I ain't one of them. An upstanding citizen, that is. Anyhow, back to my story that I'm dying to tell. Anyway, don't everybody love a good murder? The name's Mike Breyer, and I come along about 1878. My pa was a farm worker, but I never knew him. I was born into a family with a passel of kids, and my pa, his life was taken by the yellow fever not long after I come along. My mama, she had no way to support all us kids, so we moved here, there, and everywhere, staying with grandparents and relatives and whoever would take us in. I gotta say, I developed a mean streak early on account of the way I talk. Everybody picking on me. Never did good in school, never had too many friends. Guess I always had a chip on my shoulder. Not a quality that served me well, but just stating the facts here. I grew up quick and drifted from job to job, just trying to eke out a living such as it was. But I didn't need too much to live, you know. All I needed was a place to rest my head and enough money to buy my liquor. That was pretty much my day-to-day existence. Working, sleeping, waiting on payday to get that bottle in my hand. Friday and Saturday nights was spent at local haunts, playing cards, drinking myself blind, and then staggering home to pass out. Some mornings I woke up with a black eye, and some days I could hardly wake up at all. But man, couldn't wait Friday or Saturday to come around and do it all over again. I caught a break with my employment around about 1910 when Mr. Finlay hired me to work in his lumber yard. Well, those Finlays, they's good Christian people, and I suppose I was just a project for Mr. Finlay to take on. But I liked working with my hands, and the steady pay made for an even bigger celebration when Friday night come along. Mr. Finlay had me working in the back, because let's just say my people skills ain't my best quality. Well, one day, I got an order for some lumber to be delivered to Mr. Louis Conti's store. Everybody in town knew the Contis. They owned 3 grocery stores. Even one of the sisters owned a seamstress business, so everybody knew the Contis. Louis had ordered some lumber since he was adding on to his store. He was a smart businessman and counted every penny. He stood there staring at the invoice while I unloaded the lumber, counting every stick that come off the wagon. When I was done unloading, I asked him for payment, like I always did. Oh, dang it, I think I was actually polite. It wasn't like I said, "Hey, jerk, give me the money." Nothing like that. I know I was polite. I might have actually said, "Please." That might be a stretch. Conti got a little uppity with me, saying I shorted him some lumber. Shorted him some lumber, huh? Well, now, maybe a lot of things I don't mind admitting to, but by God, I was honest. That might be the only thing people could say about me. Maybe the only good thing they could say was that I was honest. He started saying things like, "You don't know what you're doing," and "That's just like Finlay hiring some inferior help." Inferior. Well, that might be a big word for me, but I knew it weren't good. My temper started to show. We got into a pretty heated argument. Now, Will Finlay and I showed up right on time, and there was Conti with his brother John. Words was exchanged, and we drew our pistols. But then that chicken-livered Conti says, "Put down your gun." Who does he think he is? I'm staring down the barrel of his gun. He wants me to put down my gun? No chance. Well, I'm pretty mad, but I make a motion to drop my gun, like to throw him off, and when he flinches, I pull the trigger. And I kept pulling the trigger. Bullets started flying everywhere, and most of them was hitting their targets. Conti unloaded his pistol into me, and I obliged him by doing the same. Then, silence. Both of us were standing there mortally wounded, looking at each other. I know I'm dying, but so is he. By God, I ain't gonna be the first one to die. Conti finally slumped over, dead as a doornail. I turned thinking, I might just walk away from this shooting. I walked about 100 yards and then collapsed. Will Finlay took me to a nearby drugstore where I died soon after. Well, it was all in the news and all about the duel and us dying and all, and they talked about Louis Conti's death and what a loss it was to the community. And my death was more like good riddance and what a no good night then. Louis got this big funeral, tears and sobbing and all, and a big tall headstone to mark his grave. Me? Well, I'm one of the many bodies buried here in the Greenville Cemetery that ain't got no marker. On days like today, I like to come out and tell my side of the story. And then I'll go over and kick Conti's headstone a few times for good measure. Oh, now you know. Well, y'all best be moving on. Not good to be in the cemetery when folks like me are about. Think about me when you walk around here. Just that you don't see no marker, don't mean there ain't somebody like me buried right under your feet.
Of her 2 children that survived, she had 2 sons that lived. One was killed in the Civil War. The second, though, lived and grew to be a doctor, and he took care of her later on in life until her death at the age of 89, which followed a broken hip, which she never fully recovered from. The oldest monument in the cemetery is located in Harriet's family plot. It is that of her child, Cora, who died in 1844 at the age of 5 years old. Now, this magnolia tree has been here since the cemetery before that. It was here when her family plot was here. Donated in honor of, let's see, Miss Alice Wyman, or she donated them in memory of her husband, Mr. Lawrence Wyman. And then the Nash Foundation added the iron gates to the front entrance and to the south entrance to complete the entry. Mr. George Cottingham donated the cedar trees that are planted down the main drive, which is back behind us. All right, that is the end of our tour today. I hope y'all have enjoyed it.
Hello.
Yeah, that's Megan.
Yeah, hi. I was the tour guide today.
She really did very well in the tour.
Yes, yes.
And she's wearing a wonderful shirt.
I am. Yes, I'm wearing the tour guide shirt.
Yeah, I saw dead people at monuments on Main Street.
Yep.
A walking tour of the history in Greenville Cemetery in Greenville, Mississippi.
Yep.
It just reminds us that our life here is just temporary.
That's right. It is.
That we have to do good to make it up there. The very first one who spoke was
Frida Stein.
Frida Stein. And the second one who spoke was
He was the mayor, John Rooks.
John Rooks. Oh, okay.
For a very short period of time.
Third one was Carrie Stern. Norma O'Bannon.
Norma O'Bannon. And Juanita Turney was?
She was the black lady that spoke. She was the next to last.
Okay.
And then, yeah, Juanita Turney. And then the last one was Mike Breyer.
Oh yeah, Mike Breyer, yeah. See, they're wearing nice shirt.
Yep.
Yeah, I watched. Where can I buy one?
Right here.
Let's see. And how much is that?
$20.
$20. Miss Tim Bixler.
Hey there.
Yeah, and
Robin
Miss
Kelly.
Robin Kelly. And then Sonia Bixler. Sonia Bixler. And Megan.
Hi. And my daughter Hallie.
My daughter Hallie. And Trey.
Yep,
too.
and Trey.
Yeah, Trey. What's your name?
Clinton.
Clinton. And what's your name, sir?
Keith.
Keith. Yeah.
We're actually gonna make DVDs for the actors involved with it, and some of the family members of some of the people that were being portrayed.
Mega shout out to Team Premiere, and also to my
Family.
Mike and Judith of Las Vegas, and Nanny's World of Jovi.
Thank you for supporting our channel members, our Mindori Journey, Kong Youngs, D. Garcia, and Alexander Malate. My other members, Kentis Vlog, Chia Adventure, Bikoy Vlog, and Yolo Amore. Thank you also to all my past super chatters and past members. Thank you for all your support.
You made it! He's going on a trip around the country, all 50 states.